This is Lexicon Architect, and for today's commander, we're going to be looking at Ojer Taq Deepest Foundation, a 6 mana legendary creature god with vigilance that says if one or more creature tokens will be created under your control, 3 times that many of those tokens are created instead. So, for example, let's say we make 5 tokens, it's going to multiply it by 3, so we're going to make 15 tokens instead of 5. So basically, the whole strategy around this deck is to play a bunch of token creation, triple up on them, go wide, and try to kill our opponents. So at main value 1, we have Esper Sentinel, which is going to allow us to draw cards. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell this turn, you draw a card. Unless that player plays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. Then we have land tax to ensure us that we get our lands. And then we have Soul Warden and Soul Attendant to gain us life along the way whenever another creature ETBs onto the battlefield, and it does not have to include our own. At mana value 2, we have Dawn of the New Age to allow us to draw cards at our end step. We have Finale of Glory, which allows us to create soldier tokens, but if it is 10 or more, you make X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. Then you have Grand Abolisher just to make sure that during your turn, opponents cannot cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Then we have Grand Crescendo, which is an instant and it can work as a way to protect us from board wipes. So let's say if our opponent tries to board wipe, we pay 5 mana into this, we make 5 tokens, or 15 depending on if the commander is out, and then all of our creatures will gain indestructible until the end of the turn. Then we have cards like Suture Priest that whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, we gain a life. And then whenever a creature enters the battlefield under opponent's control, you may have that player lose 1 life. Then I feel we need to talk about Throne of the God Pharaoh. That basically says at the beginning of our end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. And then White Sun's Twilight is going to gain us X life. We're going to make that many mites, and then if X is 5 or more, you destroy all other creatures, so it does act as a board wipe for us. Main of value 3, we have Call the Coppercoats, that we can pay the strive cost, and we create X11 white human soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures those opponents control. And like I said, you pay the strive cost, and then you can choose more than one opponent. So let's say hypothetically we pay 3 and then we pay 6 more. We are going to copy this. Well, not copy it, but you cast it 3 more times. So you're going to get a bunch of tokens out of this, and especially if our commander is out, we're going to generate triple that amount. Then we need to talk about Flawless Maneuver. It allows us to protect our board state as long as we control our commander, and it becomes free. And even if we don't control our commander, you can still pay the 3 mana to give your creatures indestructible. Then we have Monologue Tax, which allows us to make treasure tokens whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn. And then we should also talk about Welcoming Vampire. Whenever one or more creatures with power or less enter the battlefield under your control, you draw a card, and this ability triggers only once each turn. At mana value 4, we have Clever Concealment to protect our board state and allow us to phase out all of our permanents, and it does have Convoke, so we can use our creatures to pay for this. Elesh Norn, basically, whenever a source and opponent control deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. Then we have Emiria Angel with Landfall, that whenever a land ETBs under your control, you create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. Then let's talk about Mondrak. So Mondrak is going to double up on our tokens, and this also works with our commander. So hypothetically, you make 5. Let's say you make 5 tokens, right? Commander's out, you make 15, and then this doubles it, so you make 30. Then we're going to talk about Smothering Tithe, which allows us to generate treasure tokens whenever an opponent draws a card, unless they pay 2, and if they don't, you create the treasure. At mana value 5, we have Defiler of Faith that makes our white permanent spells have Phyrexia mana, so it costs 1 less to cast for each Phyrexia mana you pay, so we pay 2 life. And then whenever we cast a white permanent spell, you create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, and then again, if the commander's out, you're going to make 3 of these tokens instead. Then we have Gauntlet of Power to double up on our white mana. Then we have Rabble Rousing with Hideaway 5, and then whenever you attack with one or more creatures, you create that many 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Then if you control 10 or more creatures, you may play the exile card that you looked at the top 5 and put under this without paying its mana cost. And then lastly, Throne of Eldraine. Um, Basically, we choose white. We can tap this to add 4 mana of the chosen color. You can only spend that mana to cast monocolored spells of that color. And then for 3 mana, we can tap it to draw 2 cards. At mana value 6, we also have Kate Sun, which also doubles up on our white mana and gives our creatures +1/+1. Then we have Nomad's Assembly for 6 mana. Sorry, you put a 1/1 white core soldier creature token onto the battlefield for each creature you control. And the cool thing about it, it has rebound. So basically, when you cast a spell from your hand, you exile it or resolves. And at the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. So let's say we make 7 creature tokens on our turn. The other players play more cards or whatever, gives back to us, and we're gonna make that many soldier creature tokens based on the amount of creatures we control. Then we have Silverwing Squadron, with flying and vigilance. Its power and toughness is equal to the number of creatures you control, and whenever it attacks, you create a number of 2/2 white knight creature tokens with vigilance equal to the number of opponents you have. So since we're going to have, either 2 or 3, depending on when we get this out, we're going to generate a bunch of tokens. At mana value 7, we have Ancient Gold Dragon with flying. Then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20, and you create a number of 1/1 blue Fairy Dragon creature tokens with flying equal to the result. And then we have Hour of Reckoning, which is our Convoke board wipe to destroy all non-token creatures. And then mana value 8, we have the white Craterhoof, that when it ETBs, creatures control gain flying and XX until the end of the turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. As far as utility lands, we have Castle Ardenvale to create tokens, Minas Tirith to allow us to draw cards, Mirix to create mites, and then Windbreast Heights to hide away 4. And as long as we attack with 3 or more creatures, we can pay 1 and play the exile card without paying its mana cost. So this deck is not a budget deck. So this will not go into my budget deck playlist on YouTube, since this deck is coming around $485. If you enjoyed this style of content, please subscribe to my channel. The little icon will be in the bottom right of my YouTube video, and you have a good day.